Good morning, everyone, and welcome to TransLink's annual general meeting. My name is Tony Guglielmo, and I'm the chair of TransLink's board of directors. So I'd first like to acknowledge and respect that we are meeting today on the traditional territory of the Musqueam Nation, on whose territories we work, operate, and serve. Secondly, I'd like to acknowledge some guests who have joined us today. First, we have the MLA for North Vancouver-Lonsdale and TransLink's parliamentary secretary, Bowen Ma. And we also have with us the mayor of the township of Langley, Jack Froese, who also is on the TransLink board. Welcome, Jack. As well as we have other board members here. And maybe I'll just go through their names and then we can give them a warm round of applause. So we have Harj Dhaliwal, Murray Dunwoody, Ann Giardini, Karen Horcher, Andy Ross, Marcella Zella, and Larry Beasley, who you will hear from shortly afterwards. So a round of applause for our board members. Thank you. So we have a full program this morning, starting with our annual general meeting. Then following a short break, and then we'll reposition ourselves to the fourth floor for our public board meeting. So as the Transportation Authority for Metro Vancouver, it's vital TransLink connects with all communities throughout the region, which is why we've chosen to be here at Kwantlen Polytechnic University in Richmond, and it's been an extremely warm welcome, and it's an incredible building that we find ourselves in. And so I want to thank Kwantlen for hosting us today. Today is also an important opportunity to reflect on what an extraordinary year it's been for TransLink and our customers. We've seen record ridership, over 437 million boardings, an unprecedented 7.1% increase over the prior year. And our on-time performance for bus and SkyTrain reached an historic record high. So helping to accommodate this growth, we filled 1,200 new positions across the organization. And for the third year in a row, we were recognized as one of BC's top employers. All this while receiving our highest customer service score in 15 years. We also secured $7.3 billion investment to fund phase 2 of the mayor's vision. It's actually the largest transit and transportation investment ever for the province of BC. And most importantly, we've set new environmental targets by committing to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 80% while utilizing 100% renewable energy in all our operations by 2050. We've also completed major upgrades to the Metrotown station. We began upgrades at the waterfront C-Bus terminal, and we made significant progress at Commercial Broadway, Surrey Central, and Joyce Collingwood. In fact, we completed those station upgrades in the first half of this year. Now, 2018 was also an example of TransLink leading the country, the continent, and really the world with new and innovative technologies. We were the first transit agency in Canada to roll out a contactless mobile credit card payment system. We call it Tap to Pay. We were also the first transit agency in North America to provide access to our system through wearable technology with compass wristbands. And I'm not sure if there's a lucky few in the audience that actually have one of those. They're a rare commodity. I see some hands, that's great. And we were the first transit agency in the world to provide RFID proximity sensor enabled fare gates for customers who are unable to tap a compass card. And that's worked really well, and we're proud to be able to provide that to our customers. So in 2018, we smashed records. We were innovators, we set ambitious targets, and we followed through on our commitments. Now, if you want more detail on exactly how we delivered for our customers and for the region, I encourage you to read our latest accountability report, which is now available online. I actually have a copy here to show you. So please, if you have the time, make your way through the report. It's got a lot of great information in there. It really brings together TransLink's financial performance, people practices, and our sustainability measures. The report also demonstrates how decisions are made based on an integration of factors, and importantly ensures TransLink is accountable to our customers and our stakeholders. So it's now my privilege to welcome Parliamentary Secretary for TransLink, Bowen Ma, to say a few words.
Hello, good morning, everybody. So grateful to be with all of you here today on the traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, in particular the Musqueam. I'm honored to be here today on behalf of Minister Selina Robinson, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, who is also responsible for TransLink. And I want to acknowledge and thank TransLink staff for their leadership and forward thinking to better, faster transit systems that can keep up with the demands of today and into the future. I don't think I have to tell you, that is a very big job. TransLink's service area covers more than 1,800 square kilometers. And for an idea of how large that is over twice the size of Canada's 5 other largest cities. In April, as you heard earlier from Tony, we learned that there was a record number of boardings last year in the TransLink system, 437.4 million. This is while other transit jurisdictions have either stalled out in ridership or have actually seen decreases. What this means for Metro Vancouver is that more people than ever are choosing transit, with nearly 500,000 people taking transit in Metro Vancouver every single day. Minister Robinson and I are among them. We are active public transit users as well as passionate advocates, and our government is taking unprecedented steps to give people more options so that they can leave their cars at home. Earlier this week, as part of our government's Clean BC plan, Minister Claire Trevena, who is the Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure, announced our new active transportation strategy known as Move, Commute, Connect. This is BC's new strategy for cleaner, more active transportation that connects British Columbians to where they need to go. And part of that is working together with communities to create policies and plans that enable and support complete active transportation networks around the province. And I know that TransLink and Metro Vancouver are already putting their minds to these types of innovative transportation priorities. By investing in public transit infrastructure, it is crucial that we invest in public infrastructure, transit infrastructure, to meet our goals of commuting commute times, reducing air pollution and congestion, and laying the foundation for strong economic growth. We know that demand for transit will only grow as we welcome more than 1 million more people to the region in the next 30 years. And that's not 1 million more people throughout British Columbia. That's 1 million more people right here in the Lower Mainland. And that is why our government is committed to funding 40% of the capital costs of the Mayor's Council's 10-year vision, a historic investment for transportation improvements in Metro Vancouver. The vision includes a 30% increase in Handy Dart service by 2027, new rapid transit lines in Surrey and Vancouver, investments in walking and cycling, as well as important bus service expansions and new B lines across the region. We are excited to work with all partners to make sure the plans that shape future transportation and development in Metro Vancouver benefit the region as a whole. And with that in mind, we need to start laying the groundwork for smart, effective transit options. So we need to ensure that we have transit systems that help enable affordable housing options and bolster a region where British Columbians can readily live, work, and play. And that is why our government will be a full and active participant with the region in the development of Transport 2050, which will be Metro Vancouver's shared plan for the next 30 years of transportation in the region and beyond. I am excited to get to work on a thoughtful, inclusive plan that will connect communities, support a thriving regional economy, and move Metro Vancouver forward on a path towards a cleaner, better future for everyone. The first phase of public engagement for Transport 2050 is already underway, and I encourage everyone to visit Transport2050, so transport2050.ca, and learn about how you can get involved in building this exciting system. We recognize that preparing for future transportation needs requires partnerships with all levels of government, and it is because of our government's partnership with the region, built on trust and mutual respect, that we can collectively deliver on the services that people need. If we continue to work together on our common values, I believe that we will be successful in meeting the needs of today and building the right infrastructure to meet the demands of the future. And now, without further ado, I would like to introduce CEO of TransLink, Kevin Desmond, who, in addition to being very curious about how many Elm Tots are in the audience today, has also transformed the way the region thinks about and Actions Transit and Transportation in Metro Vancouver since he took over. And the fact that Elm Tots even exist, I might say, which, by the way, for those of you who don't know what that means, it means Elm Tots. It was Expo Line memes for transit-oriented teens. The fact that that group even exists, I think, speaks really highly of how committed Metro Vancouver is to public transit as the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Parliamentary Secretary Ma, and thank you, Tony, as well. And I want to first thank Kwantlen Polytechnic University and the City of Richmond for helping us host today's AGM for TransLink. And it's great to see a very nice turnout. This is a really lovely space. I was mentioning to Larry Beasley next to me, this is a really great place to do an event like this as opposed to our boardroom over in Sapperton. So thanks for all coming out to Richmond today. And although Bowen somewhat stole my thunder in my notes, I do want to give the shout out to the Elm Tots. When the team told me you guys were coming, raise your hand. You know, and when Tony asked about the wearables, inevitably I knew some of you guys would raise your hand. So go get those wearables. I understand they're still selling very, very well. But you know that just as Bowen said, and I think it's something that Larry Beasley talks to us about every single board meeting, is advocacy and constituencies and on behalf of public transportation. So my hat's off to Bowen, my hat's off to you guys in your group. Keep that spirit going. Keep pushing us. In point of fact, I've worked with advocacy groups in the past, in my past life, and sometimes it's like, oh my goodness, what a crazy idea. But really, it's that push that helps us improve. That push helps the community think more and more about the things we ought to be doing in the future. So thanks for being here. I'd also like to introduce a whole lot of folks sitting up here in front. You see some folks in uniform. These are representatives of our frontline team at TransLink. You know, it takes a huge, huge family to put out transit service each and every day to make sure that we're doing it safely and providing really, really good customer service. And these folks are just great representatives of that. So I'm just going to call out their names. Hold your applause, but then afterwards. Cam Irvin, Fiki Khalif in customer information, transit supervisor Richard Gessel, C-Bus employees Jag Gill and Aaron Young, transit operations Mandeep Bahai and Jennifer Jang, transit security officer Scott Arnold, Leah Bates and Nathan Chand, SkyTrain attendants Ronnie Kwan and Michelle Welch, and she didn't want me to say, but one of their supervisors, Joanne Adams, transit police sergeants Cheryl Simpkin and Clint Hampton, and constables Kirk Rattray and Jenny Chung, and Kyla Damon Williams from West Coast Express. I want to point out that Kyla, Joanne, and Cam were charter and founding members of our Customer First Committee, and we put that together a little over 2 years ago. We're in our second iteration of the CFC. But a round of applause for our frontline staff. You know, I just get to stand up here and give speeches and wear my suit and stuff, but we're behind these guys all the way. They're the ones that make for our great system. Now, you may have noticed that our employees all over the system are wearing the T symbol that I'm wearing on my lapel today. We see the T at our stations and at bus stops all over the region, but the T stands for more than just a place to catch a bus or catch a train. Every day, up to 500,000 customers depend on us, all ages from all parts of the region and all walks of life, to get where they need to be, to get to school, to get to work, to get to their appointments. Wherever you want to go, we need to take you there. And it's an awesome responsibility that each and every one of us has to transport folks each and every day. And that responsibility fills us with enormous pride and inspires us to put our customers first. And when it all comes together, the T becomes the symbol of that commitment. And indeed, it really becomes the unifying principle for our organization around the customer, around getting people where they need to go. Together All the Way is our shared customer story. And it inspires our new customer promise to always put you first, your safety, your time, and your connection to the people and places that matter the most. Not only is it our promise, but it's also our call to action. Last year, we spent a great deal of time within the organization, up and down the organization, to build a comprehensive multi-year action plan on how to improve all phases of the customer journey. And today, we're publicly introducing our first ever customer experience action plan that outlines our commitments to enhance that customer journey. My prop, here is the plan that we've got. Everything that happens from the moment you plan your trip to purchasing your Compass card or your ticket, to arriving at a station or a bus stop, to boarding the vehicle, to arriving at your destination, to the updates that you should be receiving throughout the course of the day about what's going on in the system. Every one of those moments is an opportunity to improve the customer experience. And we expect to achieve that through three key pillars that are the foundation, and you can kind of see in the visual on the customer journey to the right. First, delivering safe, reliable, and convenient services. That always comes first. Second, providing customers and employees with information that is accurate, timely, and accessible. And three, promoting a customer-centric culture within our organization that puts the customer at the heart of each and every decision that we make. Behind me, over here, you'll see our roadmap of the projects and initiatives that we have committed to undertake between now and 2025. In point of fact, 62 action items show up on that visual and in the action plan. Each and every one of them, we believe, will improve that customer experience. In fact, 16 of those initiatives have already begun or been implemented. Tony gave a great snapshot, a summary of some of the great stuff that we did last year, and I'm going to talk a little bit about more of what is coming. And I do want to say, even as these 62 action items in this plan was designed to take us through 2025, when we should be opening the Broadway subway and perhaps the Surrey SkyTrain, this will be a living document. I have every anticipation we're going to be populating more initiatives on that list as we go forward. So some of the things going forward, we're upgrading our aged SkyTrain stations, C-bus terminals, and bus loops with improved amenities, including shelters, better lighting, and more seating. We're using artificial intelligence to be able to bring more accurate bus predictions, which means less time waiting outside for your bus. We know that that's something that people complain about, that our alerts and our real-time information has some glitches and some flaws. We're working to improve that with our excellent data specialists at TransLink. We're delivering information that's real-time, all the time, everywhere, including a new customer-friendly mobile website that will be launched later this year. Where are you, Marcella? That's one of our board members. Get on that website. We're expanding our bus services by 18% by 2021, putting more buses on the road, which means more buses more often. And we're in the process of adding more trains to the Expo and Millennium Line and the Canada lines. Those trains, the Expo and Millennium Line trains, are already beginning to show up. Canada line trains will start arriving later this year, all deployed next year to relieve overcrowding on all three lines. And we will not forget about our people. As I said before, our frontline employees are the backbone of our organization. Without their hard work and dedication, we would not be able to deliver our services. A group of people, 7,800 strong, who work tirelessly 24/7 to transport those over 500,000 people each and every day. So maybe just another round of applause for our frontline employees. Which gives me a chance to take a sip of water. So as you see, we just don't want to take you from point A to B. We want to provide you with an exceptional experience. That is our aspiration. And to do this, we need to better listen to our customers. We know that. That's why today I'm announcing the creation of a customer advisory panel. Customers will provide us with direct feedback on key projects and initiatives. They'll tell us what we're doing each and every step along that customer journey. Are we getting the right information at the right time to our customers? Are we doing enough to improve the in-person experience? Are we moving fast enough to respond to their needs? What are the little things we can be doing better? What are the big things we should be aspiring to? That's what we're looking forward to hearing from our new customer advisory panel. Together, our customer experience advisory panel and action plan comes at a time of enormous growth and expansion. We're committed to creating an environment that will attract and retain more riders and more customers. And yes, that will put more pressure on the system. We're experiencing that now. Even as all the bus hours that our great folks at Coast Mountain Bus Company have been putting out, ridership is accelerating even faster than we can put out service, and that's a challenge we have going forward. So we must remain vigilant in our efforts to make transit the preferred choice of our customers. The ELMTOTs will make sure of that too. Our forward planning does not stop here. We want to make sure that we're prepared in how we travel around the region over the next several decades. That's why we've just kicked off the largest public engagement in TransLink's history that we call Transport 2050, and you heard a little bit about that a moment ago from Parliamentary Secretary Ma. Through Transport 2050, we want to hear from everyone in the region, whether you take transit, you drive your car, ride your bike, or walk. We want to hear what matters to you. We want to hear what your values are. We want to hear what you dream about in the future, about your quality of life and how you're going to maintain your mobility. We're looking for your biggest and boldest ideas. And we have I just want to point out behind us, you can see as the backdrop, our community bus. It envisions, is that what the world of 2050 looks like? We're moving to aerial. That's the one thing TransLink is not in yet, is in the air. We want to get in the air quite clearly, the folks that designed that bus. Maybe we'll do a gondola to SFU, but we're working on hovercrafts at some point in time. So, I just want to, I'm absolutely honored and pleased that we've got a very important guest, final speaker here this morning. He's a world-renowned urbanist, and he is now a best-selling author, at least in British Columbia. That's new to my notes. On our board, Larry Beasley. Larry.
Well, thank you, Kevin, Parliamentary Secretary, Your Worship, and ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to come today to talk about a topic which is top of mind for me all the time, and that's planning for the future of our city, our region, through our transportation system, the Transport 2050 initiative. Before I do that, though, I want to tell you something you might not know, and that is this building and this school, the Wilson School of Design, fashion design, has just been picked as one of the top 10 schools of fashion design in the world. And I think that's an amazing, amazing accomplishment. And we really have to thank Chip and Shannon Wilson, who underwrote this school and really started that industry here in British Columbia. It's a wonderful thing. Cast your mind back to the early 1990s. We were trying to figure out what Vancouver should be. We didn't know. We had had a great exposition, and we knew we were going to transform. And at that time, we did the first forward-looking transportation plan of the region. In fact, it included all the things that were now implemented, those $9 billion worth of implementation of new transit that were now underway, were really envisioned at that time. And because of that plan, we were able to completely reshape the whole region of Greater Vancouver, and certainly Vancouver itself. I just wrote a book. It's called Vancouverism. You can get it on Amazon. I want you to buy it. And it's all about this period. But the amazing thing is we transformed the city in a way that no other city of that period was able to do, and it was because we had the nerve and the guts to look forward and to look beyond the obvious when it came to transportation. Now we're going to do that again. This is the chance for every single person in this region who's worried not just about transportation, but land use and how you move around and how you relate to your family and how you support your family. This is the time for you to input into the next 30 years vision, to determine how we take the issues of today and move them into a continuing contemporary city that will be the best in the world, that continues to be one of the top livable cities in the world. And this is the time to do that. That bus is a very important symbol. It's a symbol that we are not just thinking the way we thought about in the future. We are going to think about our city and our region in the most contemporary, forward way that we possibly can. We are going to continue to innovate. And the young people in this room who are the LTOT people, but everyone else under 30, this is the moment in which you must participate. You must get out there and be a part of. Already online and through social media, thousands of people have given us their ideas. We want tens of thousands. We want hundreds of thousands of ideas which can be brought into the future, into the new plan for transportation. This is going to be, by the way, a new plan where the suburbs of Greater Vancouver come to the fore like never before. When we were back in the 90s, we were trying to figure out how to offer transit just to the inner city as a big initiative. Now we're trying to figure out how to offer transportation to every single citizen in the region, and most of you are living in suburbs. And so this Transport 2050 is going to be about the suburbs. And so if you are out there and you're thinking that, well, it seems that when they take new initiatives, it doesn't increase my service in my suburban community, you have to get out and be a part of this, because this is when we are going to figure out how to deliver great transportation to every single person in every part of the region. And what's good about it is it's not just going to be about catching up. We are crowded in our system, and we do need all the improvements that we're doing, but it's not just about that. We have hitting us right now in the world, but certainly here in British Columbia, we have hitting us what are called disruptive technologies. I actually call them opportunity technologies. They are going to be changing the way we move around. Autonomous driving, ride hailing, all the new mobility devices. If you've been out around walking, you'll see all of these unusual devices that are moving people around. All of that has to be integrated into a new plan. We're going to have to find different ways to fund what we're doing. We're going to have to use real estate. We're going to have to use many different kinds of techniques, because we're not going to be able to increase the cost of transit to our users. We're going to have to fund in other ways. We're going to have to realize that rapid transit and bus systems and all the kind of mobility we need are a part of the basic infrastructure, just like your water and sewer is a part of your basic infrastructure. We're going to have to look at goods movement, things that we had never, how do we move all of the commodities that we need? And particularly when we don't have a freeway system, how do we keep all the things that keep a vibrant economy going? And so that's going to have to be a big part of this plan, and very much so, and you've heard Kevin Desmond say this, we're going to have to continue to think about the customer experience, because the fact is that our transportation system is in competition with all kinds of ways to move around. It will increasingly be so, and so it has to be a better and better experience just to be competitive. And so all of those things are going to be on the agenda. We are either going to do a great job in this plan, we are either going to really determine the future of this region, and by the way, the province is helping us, and Metro Vancouver is helping us. They are active partners, because it's a land use as well as a transportation discussion. And all together, we're going to figure out a great plan for the future of Greater Vancouver, or we're just going to continue to move accidentally into the future, and that would be the worst thing that we could do. So my call to everyone who's online and to the people here in the audience is to get involved now. Find this bus, find the hundreds of meetings that are going to be happening within your community by the staff, a great staff team that is out there. Contribute your ideas, fill out the forms, and be a part of inventing the future of Greater Vancouver. That's the challenge, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take it up. Let's make it a great city and a great region. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Larry. Don't you just love his enthusiasm and passion? And he brings that to the board table at every meeting, so we really appreciate that, Larry. Thank you. I just wanted to announce another special guest that I didn't notice, and that is Lorraine Cunningham, who I see standing just over there. For those of you who need a reminder, Lorraine was on the board for 6 years, and for the last 2 years, she was chair of the board. And we really do miss you, Lorraine, but thank you for coming. So before closing, I'd like to emphasize that each of us on TransLink's board of directors recognizes the important role that TransLink and our municipal partners play in the way that people move and live in the region. It's an enormously important task, and we must continue to work together and do our part to create a more livable region. So I'm now going to hand over the podium to the media team, and they're going to moderate questions from you, the crowd. And I think Kevin is going to have the pleasure of responding to those questions. So I'll ask Kevin to come to the podium as well.
All right. Test. All right. Anyone with a question, if you could clearly raise your hand, say your name and ask the question. Also, anyone who's watching on Periscope or Facebook Live, you can type a question in. And we can get one of the social team to read it out. Members of the media, we will also have an availability after the public board meeting. So I see there's a first hand up was here, this gentleman.
Okay, so I've got 2 questions. One is regarding the maps at like the bus loops and stuff. I've noticed that sometimes at nighttime they're really hard to read because they don't have backlights in them, as if like they were advertising at the bus shelters, how they the backlit at nighttime so we can still see them. Is there any reason why they can't do that to our maps so that we can see them at night, or even just have like an overhead light shining onto them from the top? And my other question is, I heard that on the new C-bus we're having each passenger is going to have like a plug-in so that they're able to plug in their phone during the course of the journey. Is there any reason why they cannot do that on the new buses coming in?
Thanks. So for the second question, yes, the new C-bus will have the plugins, and I believe, I'm looking at the CNBC folks, the double-deckers are having plugins. They are. So the new double-deckers are also having plugins. I don't know that we're designing that into the next part of our transit fleet at this point in time. But that is something to take away. To your first question, Cam, who's sitting 2 persons to your right, he was nodding when you said that. Of course, Cam works in customer information, so I'm sure he's heard that before as he was nodding. So, when I mentioned in my remarks about the customer advisory panel, it's the little things that we need to hear about. So it is those kind of little things that you raise that we need to be aware of. So thank you for that suggestion. We'll take that back.
Okay. Yes, hand at the front here.
My name is Nathan Davidovich.
We might just get a microphone to you. Just hold on one moment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my name is Nathan Davidovich, and I'm a member of various seniors organization. And last year, May of 2018, Mrs. McKenzie, the BC senior advocate, released this report, Senior Transportation, Affordable, Appropriate, and Available. No response from TransLink. It's no sense of you looking because they didn't. I can tell you that.
No, I'm looking for my staff because I
they
believe we're familiar
they were
with the
there
report,
at Metro
yeah.
Vancouver Regional District.
Yeah.
No response from anybody at all. She has 15 recommendations and no response whatsoever. But and that's over a year ago, and but that's one question. The other question is, I'd like to commend you. You are the best CEO that TransLink ever had. Nobody before you was even involved in transit. They didn't know anything about transit. So you are the best one around. Unfortunately, many things happened before you came here, like the Compass card is going to cost us $1 billion until the contract expires with Cubic, which you've done better in Seattle with the Orca card, which is way better, And and what I would like to ask you is, because you haven't been here that long, find out all the bus cutbacks that have occurred before you came here, from 1999 till you came here. and you'll find the list of bus cutbacks that TransLink did. And some of them are going to be talked about at Vancouver City Council tonight. And Larry Beasley knows some of them, but he never publicly announced or denounced them or anything like that. That's about it.
All right, well, first, thanks. On the report, I'm looking up at Jeff. I don't see where Sarah is. I think we have seen, and I believe we responded to the report. So we can, I think Jeff or Sarah Ross can chat with you afterwards. I appreciate that. You know, we spend a lot of time on making sure the system's accessible. And again, you know, having the customer advisory committee, and in fact, we're at the board meeting after the AGM today, we're taking up an item to create a Handy Dart Users Advisory Committee. So making the system accessible for seniors, for the infirm, for people with disabilities is very, very important to us, for sure. And I'm sure many of the recommendations in that report come forward. As for bus service cuts, yes, there were difficult times in the past when TransLink was dealing with financial challenges. We're recovering those and growing, and even beyond that. So I think with the wisdom of the mayor's plan and having those partnerships with the province and the federal government, we're in a place to expand the system dramatically. I can tell you that a lot of the conversation around the Mayor's Council now, if I can get ahead of Mayor Froese a bit, is as we're thinking about the Phase 3 funding plan, I know every single mayor wants to understand how we can move even faster, and I think that's very much part and parcel of what we're doing at TransLink.
Okay, further questions? Gentleman at the back there.
Oh, okay. Hi, my name's Kelly. I'm a disabled person who mostly uses transit all the time and don't use a car. That's me. And I use a compass card with a red, symbolizing the government of British Columbia, not just through TransLink, but also parts of the province in BC on BC Transit. Speaking of which, I know your plan on the 25th, was it the plan of 2015, am I right, Kevin? Yeah. The 2015 plan on building better public transit services. My question is, have you asked the provincial government and BC Transit, for that matter, to expand its Greater Vancouver services to either going to Abbotsford or to Chilliwack or to any Fraser Valley Regional Services, and going to either going to Whistler for that matter? And second of all is the West Coast Express. I know it's a commuter rail train that runs peak hours only. Is there any plans on having either having a train going to Mission during the mornings and then coming back to Vancouver during the afternoons? Just a question on those things.
So both excellent points. Those are points that come up repeatedly as we've been thinking about the long-range plan. So to your first point, yes, we are in very much active conversations with the province. And in fact, 3 months ago, I think, at an event, Minister Selena Robinson and Parliamentary Secretary Ma announced that the province's engagement with TransLink along with Metro Vancouver on the 2050 plan. And part of that, there's a number of different reasons I think the province wants to be actively engaged, is those extra regional service connections. We know, it's kind of to Larry's point as well, that this plan is going to be much more about the suburbs and the areas outside the urban core. And we know that that urban area continues to grow, whether up the Fraser Valley or up the Sea to Sky Highway. I talk to the CEO of BC Transit frequently, so that is very much on our radar screen, whether and how those cities, those districts maybe join the TransLink district, or we have other partnerships going forward and better integration with BC Transit services. Those are some of the conversations that we're having. And then West Coast Express, that's a big favorite topic of mine. I firmly believe, I've been asked about this many times, that we've got to find a way to make the mainline freight rail corridors really work well for moving goods and services. That's important to Canada, it's important to BC, but we also need to find a way to move people as well. So that is very much on our radar screen, so I appreciate your points. Did you want to add anything to that, Bowen, on not to put you on the spot?
No, that's all right. I think Kevin said it exactly right. We recognize, from the provincial level, we recognize that transportation needs to be looked at as a whole system, which is also why we're really interested in integrating more active transportation and having that strategy be a part of what it is that that agencies like TransLink and other transportation agencies deliver. We can't just, if you're trying to get from point A to point B, as a commuter, you don't really care that you've crossed a municipal boundary or that you've entered or exited TransLink's jurisdiction. You just want to be able to get there. And we know that we need to be able to work together better in order to get people from point A to point B.
I think we're up here next.
Yeah, David, yep. I was wondering if there's been any further move afoot to replace the shuttle vans with low floors models.
I think that's something that we continue to look at. That we've got to find a vehicle that will last the 7 or so years that those vehicles need to last. Randy Helmer, I know I saw him. Where is Randy? Here. Maybe could you really quick answer that question for where we're at on thinking of low floor community shuttles?
Yeah, with our current order of community shuttles right now, we do have a mix, and we continue to look at what is the proper mix for us. So everything is pointing towards that we'll continue with the low floors, but there is right now a need for some of the higher floor models, and we'll continue to do that mix.
Randy's the Vice President of Maintenance at Coast Mountain Bus Company, by the way. Thanks, Randy.
All right, further questions? I know Janet Brown's been waiting to ask a question there.
Terrence, over here. Yeah, no, I see you, Janet. Yeah, Janet.
Mr. Desmond, I'd like some more information, if possible, please. The customer advisory panel, who will be sitting on that panel? When will they be put together? And will they be going into the community to meet with people? And you also mentioned a handy dart committee being set up.
Yeah, so to the first question, so we're taking that up in the board meeting later today. So the terms of reference for the customer advisory panel, advisory committee, have not yet been set. I would anticipate, a group of anywhere from 12 to 20 or so citizens. We have to make sure that it's a diverse group of people that represent, all interests and parts of our geography. So exactly how that committee will function and operate in part depends on the terms of reference that we develop and will depend on the committee. I'm absolutely certain, the committee and who will be appointed the chair will want to take it in various different directions. But the core to it, we want to make sure that we're community grounded. On the Handy Dart Advisory Committee, that was actually one of the recommendations from the advisory committee that we put in place a couple of years ago. So we've been working on that ever since. You may know that we have a Users Advisory Committee, the UAC, that's been in place at TransLink for many years. So we wanted to spend some time to make sure that there was a smart delineation of responsibilities between the UAC and the new advisory committee. But the board will be taking that up later on this morning with the terms of reference and the names of the individuals and who they are. Yeah. So, yeah. Sure.
My question is, I hope I haven't missed an updated memo, but how are we doing with distance-based travel, and are we getting rid of the zones sooner than later?
So that's also on the on the agenda later today. So not to steal the thunder, yes, it remains part of the priorities for TransLink. We've got to convert elements of how Compass works to make that happen. To get into jargon, the Compass system is what's called a card-based transaction. So all the information resides on the card. There's not enough space on the card to manage a much more complicated fare table. So I'm getting Orca doesn't have that either. To get No, they don't. To get to be able to manage a much more complicated fare table, we have to get into what's called account-based processing. That will take some time to make happen. So, and to Orca, since you bring it up, and I was part of it, Orca's a previous generation. Our Compass program is a newer generation, is far superior to Orca. They are in fact they have a contract to replace Orca in the next few years, which will then be ahead of us. They will have account-based processing.
All right, we've got another question here.
So I bring up the Compass system earlier. I was wondering, I know a friend that is left-handed, and I know there's other people out there who have problems tapping on the Compass readers when they're exiting the SkyTrain stations, because if you tap on the left-hand side, it opens the gate on the wrong side. So is there any reason why you guys can have them work for the left-handed people to tap more easily? Because right now, when I'm with my friend, always I have to go second and tap for him, and then he just walks through, and then I have to walk through. So then, and then after I tap my card. So is there any reason why I guess can't have them more accessible for left-handed people?
I really appreciate that comment because I am left-handed. All right, lefties, raise your hand. Some people have heard my rant that it's a right-handed person's world, and we left-handers have to work harder in life sometimes, and maybe tapping is part of it. I keep my Compass card in my right pocket, so I just tap with my right hand.
All right, we do have a question from online. With all the transit expansions happening now, how will TransLink fill operator seats? Where will you find the drivers?
Well, that's been an enduring challenge of ours for the last few years. It's something that Mike McDaniel, who's the President General Manager of CNBC, and Don Palmer, who's the Vice President of Operations at CNBC, and then working very closely with TransLink's HR department. We've been pulling out all the stops. We hired in total last year, Don, how many operators? 546 operators. About half of those roughly were for attrition, normal retirements and departure. About half of that was to help with the expansion. I believe we are on target to hire roughly the same number of people this year and next year and the year after that. It's an awesome task, so I appreciate the question. We have pretty close to full employment here in the Lower Mainland, very low unemployment rate, so we know that we're in a very competitive environment to hire excellent people to drive our buses, operate our equipment. So far, so good. It's going to be a challenge going forward, absolutely.
All right, we might have time for one more. This lady here has a question.
This is a question about affordability. I think it's wonderful. We have a U-Pass for people going to university. It's great. And we have free fares for 5-year-olds and under. I'm wondering if there's any thought to, from 5 to 18, of having either reduced fares or free fares. And the reason for that is equity. It's so that children can get to our publicly paid for assets like museums and art galleries and things like that. Kids that are low income and teachers in low income areas don't have that opportunity for their children to be able to take them and their students on field trips, whereas in the West Side it's not a big problem. So wondering what you're thinking about on that.
So that was a very, very important element of the transit fare review that we conducted over the last, year and a half, that was completed last September. We understand that there's a lot of interest from the community, from many sectors in the community, to provide further discounting, and youth fares is a big part of that. We've had extensive conversations with our board. We've had extensive conversations with the Mayor's Council. We've had extensive conversations, in fact, with the province, and I know the province has some interest in examining that from a provincial-wide. So stay tuned. We're in those conversations. It costs money. So the extent to which we provide further discounts means less fare revenue. If we have to figure out how to make up that lost fare revenue, and we're looking for partnerships to do that. We would hate to be in a position where we provide further discounts on the fare revenue that would come at the expense of providing more service. So we would ideally like to do both. What the level of the discounting might be, what the rules associated with the discounting might be, remain to be seen. But yes, it's very much on our agenda, and I know the Mayor's Council remains very interested in pursuing that.
All right, well, thank you everyone for those.
We have one, Cam has a question. One more for Cam.
This is on the stage question. We see the Transport 2050 bus parked in front of us, and we have a number of mayors here, and this is not to create a political firestorm, but
I'm sorry I asked you to answer your question, Cam.
But you grew up in a large metropolis in New York, and Toronto went to a mega city, was that about 10 years ago, a little bit more? Can the mayors get what they need without going to a mega city consideration? And does the Transport 2050 have to lay on the shoulders of a skeleton which is based on a mega city? Because that's perhaps around the time that a vote between now and then will take place.
You know, I want to ask Larry to answer that because he is the expert on things of that nature, and we want to hear his wisdom. Larry?
You know, megacities have been tried in various parts of the world, and while you get some benefits from that amalgamations, you also have a lot of disbenefits. In fact, here in this region, we have one of the most attractive systems in the world, which is a federation of municipalities, which means that citizens get local access to their local politicians. But then there's also Metro Vancouver, which plans for the region, and TransLink plans for the region. In fact, I would argue that we have, and I have actually argued formally in Toronto, that they need something like our Mayor's Council, which is a collaboration of all the municipalities together in a decision-making role where they broker all the important decisions and priorities. Toronto doesn't have that, and they're suffering as a region, even though they amalgamated. And so it's not really a question of amalgamation, it's a question of how you organize yourselves to make intelligent decisions and broker among all your needs. I sit with the mayors in joint committees, and I can tell you every mayor is advocating for the things that matter for them, and that then causes the staff to do a very, very fulsome analysis of priorities and allocations and where the needs are. And it's one of the best systems in the world. And we should be proud of it, actually.
All right, well, thank you all for those questions. I'll now pass back over to Tony for some closing remarks.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed that question period. And just for those folks in the audience, I am right-handed, but I golf and play hockey left-handed. So again, I want to thank every one of you for coming out today. We really appreciate that you took the time out of your busy days to come and be with us for a short period of time. So thank you very much.